Entering the UFC roster is already a seriously tough task.
He wants me to kick him off this show. It's the easy way out. He's afraid to lose on national television. This ain't Survivor and vote him off. Beat him off. That didn't sound good, did it?
Let alone maintaining your spot and climbing up the rankings.
Dana White, truly, as far as aspect of fighting is concerned, he's a hindrance. He's unnecessary. I don't know. I think we could definitely get a trained monkey to get in there and do his job.
Therefore, the margins for error are very tiny.
I'm truly sorry for what happened. If I could take it back, I definitely would.
One mistake and you're out of there.
You got no business talking about rape on Twitter. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's not something that people think is funny and want to read about.
From failed drug tests.
I spent many sleepless nights. I spent nights just sitting in the backyard, staring into space, wondering how the hell this happened to me. It's been miserable for me. It's been hell. It sucks.
To criminal activities.
UFC fighter has been arrested on sexual abuse charges.
To weird underwear.
And what an unfortunate choice in shorts. That just doesn't look right.
I just want to know why.
Here are 10 UFC fighters who effed around and got banned.
And Tito's just a really dumb human being. He's not intelligent at all. He's very, very fucking stupid.
Together?
Oh, that's going on the net.
Surprise, surprise! The king is back!
We'll kick things off with Tito Ortiz, whose rocky relationship with Dana White is all well documented.
You had a relationship early on with Tito Ortiz because you managed him.
100%.
So that went from sugar to shit?
It did. It was a lot of behind the scenes stuff with me and him. And Tito's just a really dumb human being. He's not intelligent at all. He's very, very fucking stupid.
In early 2000s, Dana was Tito's manager, and even after Dana became UFC president, the two maintained a wonderful relationship.
Together?
Oh, that's going on the net.
Until a playful grappling session on a plane to Japan turned violent. A legend has it that Tito playfully caught Dana in a chokehold and refused to let go despite the fact that Dana was in extreme discomfort. The UFC president used his boxing experience to fight back, and a brawl ensued.
With Tito Ortiz, I think we have a picture of him here. I don't know what his beef is with you.
I actually never told this story publicly before, but we were on a private plane on our way to Japan, and it was the Fertitta brothers, myself, Tito Ortiz, and our matchmaker at the time, Joe Silva. And Tito and I were messing around, and he put me in what's called a neck crank. I was tapping, and he didn't stop. So I just started blasting him in the ribs. And when he let go, just jumped up, and it was a full-blown fist fight in the plane. And the Fertitta brothers had to jump in and break up the fight.
You're like kids that misbehave.
No, it's true. Exactly.
From that point onwards, Ortiz lost all the perks and privileges he enjoyed within the UFC, like private jets, suites, and whatnot. He even got pay cuts, after which the relationship between the two reached its boiling point.
Google Tito Ortiz talking, okay? You know you're fucking stupid, Tito. You know you are. So we'd be coming up to a big fight that was on Saturday. Deals have been done for months. Tito would call and say, I'm not going to show up unless you pay me another $150,000 or whatever the number was. He would do this on the regular. Tito was always the type of guy that would step over dollars to pick up dimes because he thought he was smart, but he was the complete opposite of smart. He's not a smart guy. He absolutely destroyed a relationship that he could have had for the rest of his life.
In 2007, the two almost had a legit boxing match, but Tito backed out.
He said, we can't do that anymore. I can't give you anything. I said, well, there's no contract. You can't give anything. I'm not going to do it. He's like, well, you got to do it. I go, I don't have to do it. Any of my other fights, I always fought, and I fought for money. All of a sudden, I'm not going to get any financial revenue from it, and it didn't make sense to me. I'm a businessman. I wish it would have happened. That way I could actually shut him up, but I'm glad it didn't happen because I probably would have hurt him.
I have never heard in my career of the owner of a company challenging an employee to a fight.
I did not. He challenged me.
You accepted.
Trained for it. I brought in like real guys. I spent serious time really training for this fight, and I was absolutely going to do it. Tito and I have boxed before. It wouldn't have been the first time Tito and I boxed.
How's it usually go?
Not good for Tito.
What? Get out of here. Tito.
He blinked.
He did. He blinked.
Could you have won?
Yeah, I would have won. I absolutely would have won that boxing match. I was gonna f him up and make him look stupid.
And a year later, he briefly left the UFC.
I'm done with the UFC. I'm done being taken advantage of. I'm done of being disrespected. I've been in the sport for 11 years. I gave them a third of my life, and they give me no respect. The president, Dana White, is full of himself. His biggest victim is himself. It just shows how arrogant he really is. And he treats fighters really horribly. And the fighters who have a problem here in the United States, those are the ones he takes advantage of.
Only to resign in 2009, fight for 3 more years, and then get the boot.
Me and Tito have we need some serious fucking counseling, okay? We need to act like grown-ups here at some point and sit down and talk to each other. And it's hard for both of us.
I think we got to get past the first little step of Dana saying he don't want no Tito business, and he was quoted on that. And the last time he said that as long as I'm president of the UFC, Tito Ortiz will never fight in the UFC, and we proved him wrong on that one.
Dana later said that Tito and fellow light heavyweight champion Randy Couture were the worst fighters he has ever worked with.
At such a critical time in the development of the UFC, there are probably 2 guys that absolutely tried to destroy the company at that time, and it was Tito Ortiz and Randy Couture. Two of the worst guys to ever fucking deal with.
Next up is Dennis Hallman.
And then we saw some interesting clothing options, I guess. What was your reaction when you saw that? Did you feel like Hallman was taking this as a joke? He came out there and was stretching in the octagon. It was kind of weird.
I was horrified. I was disgusted. You know, I was a little more upset with the people that work for me that they would actually think that it was okay for him to walk out with those ridiculous shorts on.
Who set tongues wagging by wearing a skimpy blue Speedo for his fight against Brian Ebersol at UFC 133.
Dennis Hallman has been there, done that all around the world. And what an unfortunate choice in shorts. That just doesn't look right.
I just want to know why. Those shorts make George St. Pierre's shorts look like capri jeans. I'm a little bit uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, I don't feel good about this at all.
Right, so why did you decide to wear those?
I won't say what the bet was about, but I lost a bet to those guys, and losing the bet meant that I got to wear some Speedos. It turned out to be a bigger deal than I thought it would be because, you know, obviously they're legal shorts. Well, not anymore because Dana doesn't want me to be legal, but...
Did he say anything to you after the fight, Dana?
Yeah, he said those shorts are going to be effing illegal from now on. So I said, okay.
Now, Hallman opted to wear the weird outfit because he lost a bet with teammates. Yeah, it was super inappropriate according to Dana White, who handed Ebersol a $70,000 bonus for removing the horrifying shorts from TV quickly by stopping Hallman in the first round.
For the first time ever, I'm giving out a thanks for getting those horrifying shorts off TV as soon as possible bonus. And I'm not joking. Brian Ebersol gets $70,000 too.
Dana was so pissed at Hallman that he banned similar outfits from future fights.
Not as bad can get it. Nobody will ever fight in something like that again in the UFC. That I guarantee you.
As a girl, honestly, don't want to look at it either.
So imagine how guys feel. Okay.
And maybe that was the reason why he later struck a deal with Reebok and Venom to make fighters more presentable.
I was just worried about that cup and worried about his uniform malfunctioning, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I don't even know what that was.
Is that the reason why he got
But he
the
deserved
bonus?
every dime of the $70,000 that he made tonight.
Nevertheless, Hallman had one more UFC fight before being released by the promotion and never to be signed again.
As a corner man, how do you seriously say, dude, this might be a bad idea. You might not want to wear these out there.
It's one of those things where the fighters now feel like, I got to make a name for myself. I got to put on a display. I got to make people remember me. And that was his gimmick. Looks like it backfired.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to be remembered for, is going out there and making people watch 5 minutes of that.
And like Dennis Hallman, Junie Browning was banned from the UFC for sinister reasons.
Is your life going a little too good? Are you headed straight to the top? That shit.
The Lunatic was an extremely controversial fighter who rose to fame due to his antics on The Ultimate Fighter.
I've developed a surefire system to self-sabotage your career and your life on 5 simple discs. Disc 1, how to throw bottles at people.
Glasses at people in real life, you're going to jail. It's assault and battery.
Disc 2, how to develop a bipolar disorder within minutes.
What the is wrong with you? I can't figure out if you're retarded, bipolar, or if you're one of these dudes that is afraid of failing.
Disc 3, how to pick fights with people 3 times your size.
He wants me to kick him off the show. It's the easy way out. He's afraid to lose on national television, and what he can do is he can go home and say, I'd have won that show. This ain't Survivor and vote him off. Beat him off. That didn't sound good, did it?
Disc number 4, how to completely piss off your boss while flushing your career down the toilet.
This guy should have been kicked off the show a long time ago. This kid's a nut job. He is a Fruit Loop.
Disc number 5, mother all at the same time.
But his UFC stint didn't last very long. In 2009, Browning was arrested in Nevada for assaulting 3 nurses while being treated for a drug overdose. The former Tough contestant allegedly pushed, punched, and kicked the nurses and made serious threats. The UFC immediately banned him following the incident.
I'm truly sorry for what happened. And if I could take it back, I definitely would. I don't have any excuses. I have a lot of problems, and I'm working on them. That's just about all I can really say. I just want to thank the UFC for giving me the opportunity I had. It was a really bad image I put on not just them, but MMA in general.
After which Browning went to Thailand and had a run-in with the Thai mafia, almost getting killed due to his shenanigans. Fortunately, he managed to survive and return to the United States. He now keeps a low profile. Cody East's troubled past also led to his sacking from the world's top MMA promotion.
The former local UFC fighter is waking up behind bars after an arrest on domestic violence charges, and Cody East could make his first court appearance as early as today.
In 2016, the UFC went ahead with their plan to sign East despite being well aware of his domestic violence history. The heavyweight competed twice under the promotion's banner, losing both fights, and that's when the UFC brass decided that the juice was no longer worth the squeeze and released him, which proved to be a good decision because years later, East would again get arrested on a domestic violence charge.
East is back behind bars after a domestic violence incident over the weekend. According to a criminal complaint, East got into a fight with his wife and is accused of refusing to let her and their kids out of a car. The woman told deputies he made threatening comments and pushed her when she tried to stop him. He's charged with child abuse, false imprisonment, and battery. East has faced similar charges in the past.
In a 2015 interview with our own Jared Chester, East insisted that past was behind him.
I just got kind of in this bad lifestyle. But you know, that was when I was 18. I'm 26 now. I made some mistakes. I grown from it, and I'm a better man because of it.
Some people are just straight dirtbags, and Hermes Franca is one of them.
UFC fighter has been arrested on sexual abuse charges.
The former UFC lightweight contender was released from his UFC contract in 2008 due to a series of legal and doping issues. Franca had earned a title shot against Sean Shirk at UFC 73 in July 2007, but lost by unanimous decision. Both Franca and Shirk tested positive for anabolic steroids after the fight, with Franca admitting guilt and receiving a 12-month suspension from the California State Athletic Commission. Franca requested to be released from his UFC contract to compete outside the organization during his suspension, and he was never brought back, especially after he sexually assaulted a minor in 2012 and was slapped a 3-year prison sentence for the crime.
He faces 7 counts of sexual abuse in Clackamas County, but authorities aren't releasing any more details on this. Franca lives in Florida, but turned himself in Clackamas County, where he used to run a martial arts academy.
Next on our list is Michael Graves, who was set to fight Sergio Moraes on the historic 100th episode of UFC Fight Night in 2016, where he effed up big time. Just weeks before his fight, Graves was arrested on a misdemeanor battery charge, resulting in his fight being cancelled and the UFC firing him, even though he was a highly touted prospect with 6 wins out of 7, with 1 draw. What a waste of talent. Let's talk a bit about the alleged serial gym candy users now, starting off with Josh Barnett, who may think was treated unfairly.
I don't really have any doubts that my UFC run here is going to have any Dana White, Josh Barnett, cataclysmic battles.
I'm not a big Josh Barnett fan. I think he's bad for the sport. All the shit that comes out of his mouth is stupid, and I'm not a fan.
Is that the main reason we're not going to see Josh Barnett ever in the UFC?
You'll never see him in the UFC, ever.
Dana White, truly, as far as aspect of fighting is concerned, he's a hindrance. He's unnecessary. I don't know. I think we could definitely get a trained monkey to get in there and do his job.
In late 2016, Barnett tested positive for the presence of Ostrin, a banned substance, in an out-of-competition drug test conducted by USADA.
Speaking of butt fucking, let's talk about USADA.
Yeah. Without the lube.
You tested positive from a tainted supplement. You were cleared, but this whole process was a goat rope. You didn't feel like you were fairly treated.
Not in the least. I took a supplement that had tribulus in it. That's all it was.
It's a Chinese herb that stimulates testosterone. Barely works.
The supplement itself, as it turns out, was contaminated with a SARM called Ostarine. The people that did the lab testing on it said, well, clearly just contamination because this wouldn't help you. This wouldn't do anything for you.
Though he maintained his innocence and claimed that he was a victim of a contaminated supplement.
USADA was testing me. I had a fight against Arlovsky, and then after that I was like, I'm just going to take a break for a while. I'm not fighting. I'm going to tour Europe and goof off. UFC, we told them, but USADA would still come around and test, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever.
So you have to give them a detailed itinerary of every day?
Every day.
Okay.
They sent someone to my house. I was like, fuck, all right.
So they still counted that as you not being there for a test?
Yes.
Well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And they give you a strike?
Yes. And so I'm like, okay, that's aggravating. Then they come back and they're like, oh, you tested positive for this. I'm like, well, that ain't fucking possible. So then I send in some supplements, which I had to pay for to have them tested. They run them through the testing, and then bang, they find it. Then they went out and bought a brand new bottle, unopened, same lot, tested that one, verified the results. Same
positive.
thing. Then they got real quiet. What happens is you're effectively suspended until this thing is all finished out.
What do you mean? Like you would contact them, they wouldn't respond?
They would take them a week 2 weeks. I tried to corner Travis Brown because I was training him, and they wouldn't let me. They're like, you're suspended, so you can't corner.
But you said you're not suspended.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not taking a punishment for contamination. That's not acceptable because nobody is doping. Nobody's trying to cheat the system. By punishing me, you're trying to levy guilt on me.
Barnett faced a potential 4-year suspension. After arbitration with USADA, however, Barnett was eventually exonerated and received only a public warning.
How did it ultimately get resolved?
Well, ultimately, what ended up happening is we had to go to arbitration.
What do you think their motivation is here?
I think that the way USADA looks at it, the more people they ding, the more effective they appear. They wanted to levy a punishment against me and suspend me for years.
So USADA ultimately, even though they knew that you took a tainted supplement
Yes.
that had no effect whatsoever on your performance,
right,
they still wanted to punish you for
Yes.
2 years. That seems stupid. So at the end of the day, after all this, they say they gave you a reprimand. What does that mean?
That just means like,
don't do that.
Be careful.
But no punishment.
Right. And
so all that 2-year shit from USADA was unwarranted.
Right. And
heavy-handed.
Heavy-handed as hell.
Do you remember when Nick Diaz was being interviewed by all these people, and there was that mean lady who works the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and she was grilling him, and I'm like, we're talking about pot here, you crazy lady. Like, what in the fuck are you doing? You're acting like you robbed a bank.
Most guys in Barnett's situation would have continued to compete in the UFC, but Barnett asked the UFC to release him since he no longer wanted to compete under USADA's watch. Now, the reason why the UFC wasn't willing to convince Barnett into changing his mind was that it wasn't the first time he had issues with drugs.
You've taken some stuff, right?
I tested positive for anabolics in the past. Well, but I mean, the supplement market used to be way wilder than it used to be.
Fighting was way wilder.
Fighting was way wilder. The supplement industry was way wilder. It's like back in 2002, you could still buy all this shit over the counter that by 2004 got reclassified as steroids.
Josh Barnett tested positive for 3 times, and this guy denies it every time. Everybody's a liar but him. I just saw an interview that he did the other day where he said he could really give a shit about anybody else but himself. You know, this isn't the kind of guy that I respect or want to do business with.
Dana, I'd asked about you, in fact, about what he thought about you passing any drug tests and if you'd be fighting in the UFC again. He basically said you weren't going to pass the test, and that's why you're not ever going to be back in the UFC. Do you have any response to those comments?
Yeah, I'll pass every test. I've already passed tests since then. I've passed tests before then. You know, if he wants, I can come pee in his mouth and he can tell me if he can taste any Dianabol on it or anything like that.
That's just too far, Josh.
Oh, I don't know. He might swing that way. Dana White's stature has changed quite a bit over the years from a boxer-size instructor. I don't think it's all been all the Doritos eating, beer drinking, and pretending to be a fighter that's put so much weight on him either. I'd be interested to see Dana White pass some drug tests. His hairline is quite receded, isn't it? Yeah, his shoulders got quite a bit bigger, kind of wider, prone to angry outbursts.
Tom Lawler was probably just as unlucky as Josh Barnett, as he was released by the UFC despite his USADA suspension nearly being over.
I was with the UFC for a long time. As you mentioned, I had some difficult news. I was let go 1 week ago today. Pretty interesting, shocking news, to me at least. So
you had a fight, didn't go your way against Corey Anderson, and then there was a USADA suspension, something you have adamantly challenged. I believe they found Osterine in your system. You were set to be off suspension in October 10th of this year, so less than 2 months, and all of a sudden they just released you.
Lawler had been serving a 2-year suspension from UFC competition due to a failed drug test for Osterine in 2016, following which he had requested the UFC to release him.
I was shocked. I was kind of distraught because I had asked previously for my release when I was given the USADA suspension. And believe me, Luke, when I tell you this, I did not intentionally ingest any sort of Osterine or any performance-enhancing drug. Those of you who have read the Josh Barnett situation can kind of understand that not everything is fair when it comes to USADA and the UFC. It took me way off guard.
Lawler's requests were declined for nearly 2 years, but just before the expiration of his suspension, the UFC shockingly released him.
What is your guess about why they waited until now?
I think it's just a combination of them getting rid of guys and my age and not having fought in a few years. I spent many sleepless nights. I spent nights just sitting in the backyard, staring into space, wondering how the hell this happened to me. And to be honest, the past 2 years, while I haven't been able to fight, it's been miserable for me. It's been hell. It sucks.
Another fighter whose UFC career ended due to a doping suspension was none other than former heavyweight champion Frank Mir. The UFC legend was banned from the promotion after receiving a 2-year suspension from USADA due to multiple violations of the UFC anti-doping policy.
Frank Mir was sanctioned for a determined period of time.
He was 2 years. Frank Mir, he had every right to go to arbitration, but on his own offense, didn't do that.
The violation stemmed from his positive test for a long-term metabolite.
Frank Mir tested positive. Was it also oral
Also,
turinabol?
same thing, long-term metabolite of oral turinabol. Frank Mir, the same as John Jones, his first time through, was sanctioned.
During an in-competition test on March 20th, the day of his heavyweight bout against Mark Hunt. Additionally, a previously reported negative test from February 2016 was reanalyzed and found to be positive for the same prohibited substance, dihydrochloromethyltestosterone, or DHCMT. As a result, Mir's suspension began retroactively on April 8th, 2016, the date he was provisionally suspended by USADA, and this ran through April 2018.
Are you gonna appeal this?
I've been trying to fight it just to figure out what happened and what was going on, but now to appeal it because of the latest testing saying that it can go back for years, where do I even begin?
Right.
I've already spent a lot of money just on an 8-week period of my life. Now they're telling me it can be 2 or 3 years of my life with different supplements that could have been tainted.
Like, how do you track that, right?
How do you even begin? I don't even know.
So,
I want to find out the truth, but now I'm looking at it seems like a pretty insurmountable hill.
The UFC seems to be a lot more tolerant these days about what a fighter tweets or says on the mic, because as Dana White recently said, he doesn't like to control his fighters.
Free speech. Control what people say. Gonna tell people what to believe. Gonna tell people. I don't tell any other human being what to say. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want and they can believe whatever they want.
But a decade ago, this wasn't the case when the UFC fired Miguel Torres due to a controversial tweet he posted.
Miguel Torres, a UFC bantamweight, was just released due to a tweet that you deemed offensive about rape. Why?
I thought this was offensive. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous and stupid. I'm sitting in this very room this morning being interviewed by Landsberg, and he reads me Miguel Torres's tweet, okay, which is rape vans. If they were called surprise vans, more women would get into them because everybody loves a surprise. I was blown away. It's one of the first times in an interview that I didn't know what to say.
In the tweet, Torres made a joke about rape, saying if a rape van was called a surprise van, more women wouldn't mind going for rides in them. Everyone likes surprises. The tweet naturally sparked outrage, leading UFC President Dana White to immediately cut Torres from the roster.
After the press conference, I find out that that was the case. He did say that, and he was joking. It was just a joke. It's not a funny joke to me. It's just not something you tweet.
Then someone reported this back to you, and you made the decision then to let him go.
Correct. If that's your sense of humor, keep it at home around you and your buddies and keep it to yourself. And what Miguel Torres wrote is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You got no business talking about rape on Twitter. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's not something that people think is funny and want to read about.
Is this the first time since you've been running the UFC that someone has been fired due to something they've said or written?
Probably, yeah. I think so. There's limits. There's limits to what you can say and what you can't say. And Miguel Torres definitely crossed the line. Unless you want to stop fighting and go become a comedian and open up for Rogan or something, we don't want to hear your jokes. We don't want to hear what you think is funny.
And needless to say, it was well deserved, because there are some boundaries you just cannot cross.
It's not about the mistake that you make, it's how you handle yourself after you make that mistake. And there's some guys in this sport who deny, lie, say they didn't do this, they didn't do that, there's a conspiracy going on. He didn't do any of that. He went and handled himself like a man, and I respect that. We got together today, he talked to me, and he's back in the UFC. So, and here's the thing too. Now, I was criticized for cutting him. Now I'll be criticized for bringing him back. The bottom line is I don't give a shit what anybody thinks or what anybody says. I don't give a fuck what your opinion is. I'm gonna do this the way that I do it. You don't go on Twitter and you don't make rape jokes. You can all have your opinions. Your opinions don't mean me. I'm going to run this thing the way that I want to, and I'm going to do things the way that I think it should be done. I know when I cut Miguel Torres that I did the right thing, and I know I did the right thing today by bringing him back.
So these were 10 more fighters who were banned from the UFC. To watch part 1 and 2 of the series, check out the links in the description. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.